Lately I've seen some amazing portraits drawn in black and white pencil. After drawing the regular style for a long time now, I wanted to find out how to do that. So come on, find out with me together. Welcome to the sketching ground, and thank you very much for spending time with me. Today we will be looking at drawing in black and white on gray paper. Something I've seen a lot on Instagram lately. Perhaps you have too. I was wondering how to really do that, so I checked it out. For that, first we will of course talk about the materials I've been using and some options you will have there. Then we will look at how to do it and what I draw with it. And then we will be talking about lessons learned. I will also structure that down for you in the description, so you can jump to the parts that really interest you. But I would recommend to stick to the complete video for the first time. But without further ado, let's take a look at the materials. The first thing, of course, is the paper. You will need something that is not white ideally. Of course, you can also draw with white on white. The effect might be a little smaller. I've selected a pretty thick gray paper here, not too dark, not too light, so that we get a nice contrast. If you have some gray cardboard or some more brownish color at home, shouldn't really matter that much. Just try what you like in terms of contrast and color. It should have a little bit of a structure depending on the pencils you will use to get the best effect. Regarding the pencils, there are of course almost endless options you can choose from. Let me tell you what I'm using, perhaps that will help you. For the basic sketches, I'm using a mechanical pencil. Cheap, easy to use, and you can erase it very well, which is very important, especially in the beginning stages. In my regular portraits, I'm also using it for basic shading. I'm not doing it this much here. Let's talk about later why. The second pencil I'm using is Mars Lumograph Black 8B. Of course, there are a lot of alternatives out there. I like to use it for general shading work. It also works very good in this context. And then there is my secret weapon for contrast, the Piano Noir 2B. I'm in love with it since I discovered it, and it also works perfectly here. You can draw pitch black and completely matte. It's just amazing. I highly recommend it. And then there is the white, which we are all waiting for. There are also very different materials you can use with very different effect. So the standard one would be a general white pencil. This is a pretty good one. It's the Polychromos from Faber-Castell. It is a nice white pencil with a pretty neat effect. There are cheaper alternatives out there that work nearly the same, but for me they fall all a little bit more into the transparent category. There's also charcoal white. This is from Generals. It is actually made in the US, so you might get your hands on it easier than I could if you're living there. As it is real charcoal white, it is much more of a solid white color. But again, I also have a secret weapon for white, and that is from the same company as the Piano Noir, a white pastel one. And that one is really solid white also. Pretty amazing. So I would say the Generals one and this one is almost the same in terms of white you can achieve. Those are two very good options for quite the solid white. And if you combine both of them on the gray paper, you can achieve an amazing contrast. Another pen that can help you a lot is a white gel pen, because that is pure white that you can just layer also on top of black for an extreme contrast. For example, I use it for that glint of white in the eye, the light reflection that helps you with introducing a lot of life into your pictures. You can lay it on top of any black and have a very, very intense effect directly out of the box. Of course, it is limited to the tip size your pen has. Depending on your drawing style, you will need something to smudge this. A lot of people use their finger, gives you a lot of control. I'm using from time to time a little cotton swipe. Normally I don't smudge. I do here with the white, and we'll see later why. As an eraser, if you're working with these materials, it is very difficult to erase when you have gone this solid in black or white. It doesn't work too good. If you have an edible eraser, you can actually stretch it a little bit, work it like some dough, and the structure opens up a little bit, and it can erase better than a regular eraser. But still, be careful, it's not perfect. Also on a side note, make sure that your pencil sharpener is actually sharp, because some of these pencils break pretty easily. But that's all about the materials. Let's take a look at the portrait. If you try something new, don't set yourself up for failure. Take an easy reference and something that supports what you actually want to achieve. In this case, I'm working on contrast in black and white, so I took a picture that is very rich in contrast. I took Miles Morales from the movie Into The Spiderverse, and you see that in this picture there is an extreme contrast. On the left side it is very dark, on the right side it is very light. And also, it's not a real person. It is computer animated. It still has all the shading, light and dark, but with less facial features, less facial structures, very simplified, very clear lines. The difference from drawing on regular white paper is that you are not shading from white all the way down to black, you're shading from gray all the way to black and all the way to white. So it's not one spectrum you're dealing with, it's two. But don't worry, that sounds more daunting than it is. It is actually pretty straightforward. And I started to directly go all in with the really black one, with a Pierre Noir, to define the range I can use in regards of dark. I went all in and then I shaded in between the gray areas. I then already added a lot of white in the eye, I experimented a little bit, and it is all pretty straightforward. Drawing with the white does not feel exactly like the other way around with a darker pencil, so it is a bit of a learning curve. But if, like me, you have different types of white pencils, if you know the effect, it can make it a lot easier. I, for example, were using the Polychromos one that is a little bit more transparent for lighter whites, not those extremely white whites. And to go really white, I went in with a white pastel one. For that specific pencil, I found out that it worked a little bit binary, meaning if you went in with it, you almost always went full in with it. I think that is because the white particles it is made of were caught by my gray paper, might be different with yours, for a very wide effect. And I could turn them down a little bit with a cotton swab actually. So I'm not using it for smudging here, I'm using it to control the whiteness of this specific pencil. But other than that, there is no really big secret here to discover. You're going from one spectrum, from white down to black, to two, from gray to black and from gray to white. You just have to take the decision which lighting situation you assign to your gray paper and then go in both directions from there. Might sound a little bit frightening, but it really isn't, don't worry. Just go for it, it's actually a lot of fun. You can even go with your same hair techniques that you're using regularly, you just add a little bit more of complexity. In this case not really even, because it's very dark hair, I'm not even using the white one. But that's more or less it, so let's get into the summary. I'm honestly pretty happy with the amount of contrast I can achieve this way. Granted, it is a little bit of an easier reference picture here, but as I said, you're challenging yourself with new technique. That is enough. One thing that stood out for me is that I cannot use my standard pencil the way I'm used to. The mechanical pencil has a much more reflective effect on the gray paper for some reason. So while I can still use it for the general first sketch, it is not that easy to see on the gray, and it's definitely not an effect I want to have anywhere else in the picture, so I'm not using it for shading at all. To achieve an optimal range of grays in both colors, I recommend using more than one pencil, multiple blacks and multiple whites. I've already recorded a video about contrast and what role that can play for your pictures, and I'll link it up here for your convenience if you haven't seen that yet. But that's all for this episode. There will be upcoming ones where we'll be talking more about the white. It was really fun to use, so look out for those. Subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of any upcoming videos. For that, if you enjoyed the video, give me that thumbs up. Thank you very much for spending time with me today. I hope I'll see you next time. Goodbye.